There comes a time in life when the noise begins to fade. Not because the world has grown quieter, but because something within you begins to change. A deeper layer of awareness starts to open, and you begin to realize that the real alarm does not ring with volume, it rings with stillness. This is the paradox of awakening. The louder the world becomes, the more vital it becomes to find the silent voice within you that is always speaking, always guiding, and always observing. July 6 is not just a date. It is not just another day in the fabric of time. It is a mirror, a moment where life whispers instead of shouts. A turning point, not marked by external events alone, but by a call within. The kind of call that no ear can hear, only the heart can feel. When you become still, truly still, something remarkable happens. You begin to hear what has always been speaking beneath the surface. This is not the noise of the world. It is not the constant commentary of your thoughts. It is not the repetition of your doubts, nor the echo of your fears. It is something deeper, a knowing, a presence, a state of being that is not tied to doing. And this stillness is the emergency update that many ignore because they are still searching for answers in places where only distractions live. We are conditioned to look for danger in the loud moments, in the sudden, in the dramatic, in the explosive. But the real danger is far more subtle. It is the danger of not noticing that you are asleep while believing you are awake. It is the danger of being alive but not fully living, of breathing but not truly feeling, of moving but not knowing where you are going. That is the emergency. That is the call. That is the reason this moment is sacred. Because it gives you the chance to return to what is real before it is too late. There is a saying that truth is often hidden in silence, but few understand what that means. Silence is not just the absence of sound. Silence is a field, a state, a vibration that exists beyond the chatter of the mind. When you sit in silence, not to escape but to listen, you begin to realize that the most powerful answers do not come in words. They come in presence. They come in a sensation that arises in the body, in the breath, in the awareness that watches without judgment. In the end, the secret is within the sensation. It's within the sensation without judgment. In the end. The secret is without judgment. In the end. In the end. The secret is without judgment. In the end. This awareness is not separate from you. It is you, the deeper you. But to reach this state, you must become willing to face what you have avoided. You must look into the mirror of stillness and not flinch. You must sit with the discomfort of your own mind and remain unmoved. That is the training. That is the discipline. Not to fight the thoughts, not to suppress the feelings, but to sit with them, observe them, and let them dissolve on their own. This is not easy, but it is necessary. Because if you do not find silence within you, the noise of the world will always control you. Your emotions will rise and fall like storms, and you will be swept away by every wave. You will react instead of respond. You will follow instead of lead. And worst of all, you will miss the subtle, powerful truth that your life is trying to communicate to you every day. On July 6, the world will appear to continue as usual. People will wake up, check their devices, run through their routines, complain about their tasks, chase their goals, and seek pleasure. But beneath the surface, something has already shifted, and only those who are silent enough, still enough, awake enough, will feel it. This is not a message that will arrive in your inbox. It will not be broadcast on the news. It will not be trending on social media. It will come in the form of an inner pull, a soft but undeniable voice that says, stop. Just stop. Breathe. Observe. Listen. This moment is not about doing more. It is about undoing what has kept you asleep. The layers of distraction, the masks of performance, the armor of control. All of it must dissolve if you are to meet yourself as you truly are. Not the image, not the title, not the role, but the awareness beneath all of it. That which observes the thoughts, but is not limited by them. That which feels the emotions, but is not owned by them. That which moves through time, but is timeless. The emergency is that we are forgetting this part of ourselves. We are moving too fast to feel. We are speaking too much to listen. We are consuming so much information that we have no room left for wisdom. And the world will not stop to remind you who you are. It will continue to feed you more noise, more stimulation, more distraction, until you are too full to move, until you are too numb to care, unless you choose otherwise. And that is the power of this moment. You can choose. You can choose to pause, to sit, to breathe, to remember. You can choose to meet the silence not with fear but with reverence. Because silence is not your enemy, it is your teacher. It is the place where you remember what you forgot. It is the ground where your soul speaks. And what it says is not complicated. It simply says, I am here. I have always been here. It simply says, I am here. I have always been here. Come home. There is nothing more urgent than returning to yourself, because when you do, everything else changes. You stop chasing validation. You stop reacting to chaos. You stop needing to control everything. You become rooted, present, clear. And from this clarity, wisdom arises. Not borrowed knowledge, not someone else's truth, but your own. And that truth cannot be shaken, because it is not built on belief. It is built on being. The mind will try to pull you away. It will try to convince you that silence is wasted time, that stillness is unproductive, that presence is not enough. But the mind is only repeating what it has been taught. And now, it is time to teach it something new. It is time to show your own mind that the greatest power comes not from force, but from focus. That clarity is stronger than confusion. That presence is more impactful than pressure, and that silence is not the absence of power, but the origin of it. In the ancient traditions, the masters did not speak often. When they did, their words carried weight, not because they shouted, but because their silence had depth. They had spent years in that silence, training, listening, refining, and so when they spoke, even a single word could pierce through illusion. That is the power that lives in you, waiting, but it must be cultivated. It must be honored. It must be chosen. So, I invite you now, not tomorrow, not next week, but now, to pause, to turn off the external world and turn inward. Sit with yourself, not to change anything, not to fix anything, simply to listen. What is rising? What is revealing itself? What is the silence trying to tell you? If you sit long enough, without resistance, you will begin to feel a shift, a softening, a widening of awareness. The breath will deepen, the body will relax. The mind may still chatter, but you will notice that you are not the chatter, you are the witness. And from that witness space, wisdom flows. This is the update. Not something new to learn, but something ancient to remember. Not another task to complete, but a space to enter. Not more information, but deeper integration. And once you receive it, not through the ears, but through the heart, you will not be the same. You will still live in the world, but not be lost in it. You will still face challenges, but not be shaken by them. You will still feel emotions, but not be ruled by them. Because you will have touched something real, something unchanging, something eternal. And the more you return to that space, the more your life transforms. Not through force, but through frequency. The frequency of presence, the vibration of stillness, the strength of silence. This is the message of July 6. This is the call. This is the moment. Not to panic, not to fear, but to awaken, to listen, to return. Because the real emergency is not outside, it is inside. And the alarm has already rung. Not through noise, but through silence. The question is, are you listening? You may not realize it, but every step you take, every action you perform, every decision you make, is part of a silent message you are sending into the world. Not just to others, but to yourself. The path you walk is not just where your feet lead you. It is the energetic trail of your intent. It is the blueprint of your spirit. July 6th stands as a reflection of this principle, a symbolic checkpoint in time, an emergency update reminding you to examine your walk. Not your talk, not your wishes, but your actual walk. Words are easy, intentions are fleeting, thoughts are unstable, but your actions reveal the truth. They reveal your discipline, your clarity, your alignment, or your confusion. Life does not respond to what you say you want. Life responds to how you move. It responds to how you wake up, how you show up, how you remain present or distracted, focused or lost. The path is not something you find. It is something you choose. With every breath, you are laying the next stone. Most people think of emergencies as events that erupt outside of them, accidents, disasters, disruptions. But there is an emergency far more dangerous, a life misaligned. A life where the inner truth and the outer walk are disconnected. You say you want peace, but you fuel conflict. You say you want discipline, but you feed distraction. You say you want clarity, but you live in confusion. And this misalignment creates suffering. Not because life is punishing you, but because life is a mirror. And when you walk in contradiction, the mirror becomes distorted. So the question is not, what path should I walk? The deeper question is, what message am I sending with my path? Not what you think you're saying, but what your actions are saying. Because actions do not lie. You can pretend with your words, but you cannot pretend with your energy. Every choice builds a vibration. Every repetition becomes a rhythm, and soon that rhythm becomes your identity. That identity becomes your life, and that life becomes your legacy. On July 6, take a moment to stop walking just for a while. Not forever, just long enough to turn around and observe the path behind you. What has it been paved with? Honesty or illusion? Awareness or habit? Growth or stagnation? This is not a judgment. This is a reflection, a compassionate look at the pattern of your walk. Because it's not too late to adjust. It's never too late to realign, but you must become conscious of your current direction. There is a silent power in those who walk with intention. They do not need to speak loudly. They do not need to prove anything. Their walk speaks for them. Their walk reflects discipline, commitment, presence. It reflects a deeper knowing that they are not here to wander aimlessly. They are here to master the terrain. Not to control life, but to meet life with clarity, with centeredness, with response rather than reaction. And when the emergency update comes, it is not necessarily to say you are wrong. It may simply be to say you are drifting, and drifting is dangerous, not because it looks chaotic, but because it feels comfortable. Drifting requires no effort. It demands no awareness. But in that comfort, the soul slowly starves. In that comfort, the deeper self begins to fade, until one day you look around and realize you've walked miles in a direction that never truly felt like yours. Walking with purpose does not require you to know the entire journey. You don't need to see the whole map. You only need to know that the step you're taking now aligns with what matters, with who you are becoming, and what you stand for. And what you stand for is revealed not in what you post, not in what you declare, but in how you live. How you breathe when things are hard. How you respond when others are blind. How you remain grounded when the world is shaking. There are those who chase many paths and never find peace, because they are looking for the perfect route outside themselves. But the true path is the one walked with presence. You can be in the quietest forest or the busiest city and still walk the right path if your spirit is in alignment. It is not the scenery, it is the state of being. The path is within you, and when you walk from that inner place, every outer road becomes sacred. This is the deeper meaning of practice, not just sitting in meditation, not just stretching the body, but training your walk, making your daily life a ritual, a practice of alignment, a cultivation of integrity. You walk into a conversation, do you carry presence? You walk into a challenge, do you carry breath? You walk into uncertainty, do you carry trust? That is the training. And the beauty is, you don't need a special moment to begin. Every moment is an opportunity to correct the course. Most people want the universe to show them signs, but the universe is responding to your signals. If your path is filled with hesitation, confusion, and fear, the mirror will reflect that. If your path is filled with strength, consistency, and humility, life will echo it back. You are not separate from this feedback loop. You are in it. You are shaping it with your walk. This is not philosophy. This is energetic law. This is what the wise understood. This is what the stillness reveals. Many think walking the right path means always feeling good. But the truth is, sometimes the path will challenge you. It will confront your patterns. It will push you to let go of comfort, and that is not a sign to turn back. That is the sign you are growing. The emergency update is not to scare you, it is to awaken you. To remind you that growth is not convenient, but it is liberating. And that liberation begins not at the end of the path, but in every step you take with awareness. If your walk has become rushed, slow it down. If your walk has become heavy, breathe into it. If your walk has become confused, return to your center. There is no shame in adjusting your direction. The real danger is in ignoring the signs. Not the signs in the sky, the signs in your breath, in your tension, in your gut, in your discontent. These are not problems, they are messengers. They are asking you to look more closely at the path you're walking. Do not compare your path with others. Do not measure your value by the pace of someone else. The tree does not envy the river, the mountain does not compete with the cloud. Each walks its own path in its own rhythm. Your walk is sacred because it is yours, but you must honor it. You must not abandon it in pursuit of another's journey. That is how energy leaks. That is how power dissipates, when you try to become someone else's image, instead of refining your own essence. When your walk becomes conscious, everything changes. You begin to attract differently. You begin to think with clarity. You begin to feel more peace, not because the world has changed, but because you are walking in truth. Your body will feel lighter. Your decisions will feel cleaner. Your spirit will feel aligned. This is not a fantasy. This is the fruit of deep work. And the work begins with observation. Today, take time to observe yourself without judgment. How do you move? How do you speak? What energy do you leave behind when you exit a space? What does your walk say about your inner world? This is the real inventory, not how much you've accomplished, but how deeply you've lived, how honestly you've shown up, how courageously you've adjusted when you were out of sync. July 6 is not about fear, it is about focus. Not fear of the future, but focus on the now. Because if you walk with awareness now, the future will take care of itself. The right path is not always the easiest, but it is the one that brings peace, even in discomfort. Because peace is not the absence of challenge, it is the presence of alignment. So walk, but walk with purpose, not in a rush, not in panic, but with your spine straight, your breath full, and your awareness sharp. Walk like someone who remembers who they are. Walk like someone who carries their values not just in thought but in motion. Walk like someone who is not chasing a destination, but embodying a way of being. And remember, each step builds momentum. Each repetition strengthens the message. Let your walk say what words cannot. Let it speak of integrity, of patience, of strength. Let it speak of the fire that does not burn but illuminates. Let it speak of the stillness that moves mountains. Let it speak of the self that has returned to center. Let it speak of truth. Because in the end, the world may forget your words, but the energy you walked with, that will remain, that will ripple, that will teach. That is your message. Let it be one worth remembering. There is a whisper inside every human being, a quiet knowing, a gentle pull, a subtle voice that never shouts but always speaks. It comes in moments of stillness, in dreams that feel more real than reality, in the strange unease you feel when something is off but can't explain why. The whisper is not there to control you, it is there to guide you. But it is often ignored, not out of malice, but out of noise. The world has become so loud that the soul's whisper is drowned by the mind's constant chatter. And yet, life is patient. It begins with a whisper, because that is the most compassionate way to awaken someone. But when the whisper is dismissed, the volume increases. The signs grow sharper. And eventually, if you remain blind to the message, life sends the storm. The storm is not punishment. It is presence. It is life's final attempt to shake you awake before you drift too far. It does not come to destroy you. It comes to remove what no longer serves you, to dismantle the illusions you built your comfort around, to confront the identities that you mistook for your truth. The storm is fierce because the soul is sacred. And when the soul is forgotten, life must find a way to bring it back into focus. That is the purpose of challenge. Not to break you, but to reveal you. Not to punish you, but to invite you back to your true path. If only we listened to the whisper. But we don't. We say, not now, I'm too busy, too tired, too confused. We silence the whisper with distractions, scrolling, talking, working, escaping. And yet, the whisper never leaves. It waits, it repeats. It rephrases itself in the language of the body. Fatigue, tightness, anxiety. It tries to speak through others, through coincidences, through dreams, through silence, and then, one day, when you are no longer able to ignore it, it arrives, not as a voice, but as a wave. The wave may come as a loss, a breakdown, a sudden shift, something that shatters your routine, something that strips away the layers of your comfort, something that forces you to stop, to feel, to see. And in that pause, what you had been avoiding finally meets you face to face. The life you were living, the direction you were taking, the truth you were denying. It all becomes clear. The storm does not introduce you to your truth. It exposes that you knew it all along, but turned away. It is easy to feel betrayed when life sends the storm. But it is not betrayal. It is a reminder of the sacred contract you have with your own evolution. You are not here to coast. You are here to grow, to expand, to refine. And every time you stray from that growth, life does not punish you. It redirects you. The whisper is the first signal. The storm is the last. But both come from the same source. Love. A love that refuses to let you shrink into a smaller version of yourself. The whisper often speaks of courage. It tells you to leave what is safe, to forgive when it's hard, to speak when your voice shakes, to rest when the world demands your hustle. It tells you that your worth is not in your performance, that your peace is more important than your image, that your intuition is more trustworthy than the opinions of the crowd. These are not easy truths, but they are real, and the longer you delay them, the louder life has to become. Some people only awaken after the storm. Their health breaks down, their relationships collapse, their plans fall apart. And only then do they ask, why did this happen? But deep down they know. The signs were always there, the fatigue that they ignored, the inner resistance they overrode, the voice that said, this isn't right, that they pushed away. The storm reveals what the whisper already knew. But it does not have to reach that point. You can listen sooner, you can slow down and make space for the whisper. It may be subtle, but it is consistent. It speaks in patterns, in feelings, in quiet urges, in that knowing you feel in your stomach before your mind can explain it. The whisper lives in the body, not the intellect. The body always knows when something is off, but the mind convinces you to rationalize it away, to delay change until it's too late. And then the storm arrives, not because life is cruel, but because your inner compass cannot be silenced forever. The masters of discipline and awareness are not people who never face storms. They are people who listen early. They adjust before the damage is done. They retreat before they collapse. They shift course when the pull feels wrong, even if it makes no logical sense. They do not argue with the whisper. They honor it. Because they have learned that intuition is not irrational, it is higher intelligence. It is the wisdom of the soul speaking through the heart, through the breath, through the presence. To live this way requires humility. It requires admitting that you are not the master of control, that life cannot be forced to obey your expectations, that the path is revealed, not invented, and the only way to see that path clearly is through stillness. When you are still, you hear the whisper again. Not louder, but clearer. It was always there. You just needed to turn toward it. July 6th is such a moment. A symbolic checkpoint. A whisper in the timeline. A chance to pause and ask, where am I going? Not just physically, but energetically. Is my walk in harmony with my knowing? Have I been honest with myself about what feels right? Have I numbed my instincts just to maintain comfort? These are not questions of the mind. These are questions for the heart, and they must be answered not in words, but in awareness. If you have ignored the whisper for too long, do not fear the storm. Welcome it. Let it strip away what no longer belongs. Let it wash clean the walls you built around your soul. Let it force you into presence, into breath, into humility, because after the storm, the air is clearer, the vision sharper, the truth undeniable. And once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. Once you feel truth, you cannot return to illusion. The world may offer you comfort for your blindness. It may applaud your ability to endure noise. But your soul will only rest when you return to truth. And truth is simple. It does not need explanation. It is felt, known, lived. And when you begin to live from that place, you no longer fear the storm, because you know that storms come to those ready to rise. The whisper is not a luxury. It is a lifeline. It is not optional guidance. It is your direct connection to alignment. When you train yourself to listen, your life becomes less dramatic, less chaotic, more fluid, more precise, more peaceful. Not because life stops challenging you, but because you stop resisting its flow. You begin to trust, to surrender, to dance with what comes, instead of fighting it. That is the essence of mastery. Not controlling every outcome, but being rooted in yourself, no matter what outcome arrives. When you live this way, you become the calm in the center of every storm. Because you know that storms may shake the surface, but they cannot touch the center. The whisper leads you to the center. The storm pushes you there. Either way, you are meant to return. Do not wait for pain to remind you of presence. Let awareness be your guide. Let breath be your anchor. Let silence be your teacher. Sit in stillness, not because it looks spiritual, but because it tunes your awareness to the whisper again. And when you hear it, act. Trust it. Even if you don't understand it. Even if it leads you away from what you thought was your plan. The whisper sees beyond the mind's limitations. It speaks from the part of you that is connected to everything. This connection is the only security you truly have. Not money, not status, not control. Your only true security is your alignment with truth. Because when you are alive, even chaos becomes sacred. Even endings become beginnings. Even loss becomes awakening. So listen, not to me, not to the world, but to the whisper that has always been speaking to you. It is not asking you to change everything overnight. It is asking you to be honest, to admit where you have drifted, to return to the path, one conscious breath at a time. That is all it takes. A breath, a pause, a step in the right direction, then another, and another, until the whisper no longer has to become a storm. This is the path of the awakened, the disciplined, the aware. It is not the easy path, but it is the only path that leads home. In the silent chambers of your being, there lives something ancient, something sacred, your soul. It does not shout, it does not force, it waits, it watches, it whispers, and it calls you, not just once, but endlessly, with love, with consistency, with patience that far exceeds the fleeting attention of the mind. But the more you delay answering that call, the quieter it becomes, not because it disappears, but because you drift further away from the place within where it can be heard. Every day you delay, every time you postpone, avoid, distract, or justify, you build another wall between yourself and that inner truth. At first it's subtle, a twinge of unease, a flicker of doubt, a moment of emptiness in a room full of noise. You might ignore it, telling yourself there's no time, that you'll get to it later, that there are more urgent things to do. But the soul does not operate on urgency. It waits for your presence, not your productivity. It waits for your return, not your results. The tragedy is not that people live without purpose. The tragedy is that they once felt it, deeply, purely, and then buried it under layers of distraction, fear, and convenience. The tragedy is not that the soul stops speaking, but that we become too busy, too numb, too proud to listen. Every day you delay returning to that place within, the voice becomes harder to recognize, not because it weakens, but because you strengthen your distance from it. The soul speaks in silence, but the modern world is addicted to noise. It speaks in simplicity, but the mind seeks complexity. It speaks through stillness, but we rush endlessly toward destinations that were never meant for us. So the soul grows quiet, not because it gives up, but because you have tuned your awareness to everything else. And so the soul waits again. Every time you ignore your deep longing, every time you betray what you know to be true in your body, every time you choose the false comfort of delay over the difficult clarity of action, you train yourself to live disconnection. And this connection is not merely emotional, it becomes physical, it becomes spiritual. Your vitality fades, your clarity dims, your sense of meaning erodes, and soon, you walk the earth not as a living being, but as a shadow of yourself. There is no punishment in this, only consequence. You are not being judged by the universe. You are simply experiencing the natural result of neglecting the one relationship that matters most. The relationship with your own soul. All other relationships, all other achievements, all other pursuits stem from that one root. And if the root is dry, how can the tree flourish? People often ask, why do I feel lost? Or why does life feel so heavy? The answer lies in the distance between your daily life and your soul's truth. When that gap grows too wide, suffering enters, not as cruelty, but as correction. Suffering arrives not to harm, but to realign. But when you delay, you resist that correction. You try to medicate the pain rather than understand its purpose. You seek escape rather than embodiment. Every day you delay, every moment you say not now to the voice within, you teach yourself that other people's priorities matter more than your inner guidance. You teach yourself that comfort is more valuable than growth. You teach yourself that safety is more important than truth. But in doing so, you lose the one thing that truly matters: aliveness, the spark, the light, the breath that is not just air, but awareness. To delay is human. But to delay continuously is a form of spiritual amnesia. You begin to forget who you are, not your name or your history, but your essence, your unique resonance, your sacred rhythm. And when that forgetting takes over, you begin to copy. You begin to imitate others, chase what they chase, desire what they desire, without knowing if it is yours to want. The soul does not compete, it does not need applause. It only asks for alignment. And when you delay the beauty that wants to move through you. You delay the creativity, the healing, the wisdom that only you can bring into the world in your particular form. The world suffers, not because you're not good enough, but because you are not fully here. Your absence, masked by busyness, is deeply felt, not just by others, but by the earth itself. The soul came here to serve a purpose, and every delay is a theft of that purpose. But even then, the soul does not judge. It remains patient. It waits for one thing, your willingness to return. And the return does not need fanfare. It does not require perfect circumstances. It begins in the quiet decision to listen again, to stop running, to turn inward, to sit with what you have long ignored. That is the doorway. That is the shift. It may begin with tears, it may begin with shame, it may begin with confusion, but all of that is just the fog clearing. The return to the soul is not a performance. It is not something to display. It is a private homecoming, and with each day you choose to listen, the voice grows louder, the soul grows stronger, and life begins to align, not all at once, but unmistakably. People think they need more time, more clarity, more signs. But what they really need is to stop delaying, to stop waiting for the perfect moment to begin again. There is no perfect moment, there is only this one. And this one is sacred, because this is the moment you're alive in, the moment the soul is speaking in, the moment the entire universe has conspired to offer you right now as your next breath. Every day you delay, the light within you flickers, not out of weakness, but because it has no fuel. The fuel is presence, the fuel is action, the fuel is honesty. Without them, the flame becomes fragile, and yet it never dies. That is the miracle. No matter how long you delay, the soul remains, waiting, ready, still whispering through the cracks of your routine, through the space between your thoughts, through the heartbeat you forget to feel. So how do you begin again? You stop pretending you're not hearing it. You stop pretending you're fine when you're not. You stop numbing and start noticing. You stop delaying and start breathing with intention. You make space for reflection, for movement, for truth. You simplify. You unclutter your mind and your environment. You do one honest thing a day. One act that aligns with your deeper self, and slowly the soul returns, not because it left, but because you did. You begin to hear its rhythm again. You notice synchronicities. You feel guided, supported, grounded. The external world may still be chaotic, but your inner world finds center, and from that center you live differently. You walk with awareness, you speak with clarity, you love without fear, and life begins to respond. Not because you're now special, but because you're now present. The soul is not some distant mystery. It is the most intimate part of you. But it only thrives in honesty. And every day you delay being honest with yourself, the distance grows. Until one day, the cost becomes too great. You wake up and realize you've built a life that looks full but feels empty. That's when many collapse. But it doesn't have to reach that point. July 6 is not just a date. It is an invitation, an emergency update, a chance to pause and ask, where have I delayed my truth? You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You need to say yes to your soul again, just once, then again tomorrow, and again the day after. That is how the voice returns. That is how the light steadies. That is how the path reveals itself, not in maps, but in moments. So do not delay your return any longer. There is no reason to wait. There is no benefit in postponement. Life will not grant you more peace tomorrow if you avoid peace today. Life will not become easier simply because you wish it to. It becomes clearer when you become more present. It becomes purposeful when you become more aligned. And alignment begins the moment you stop delaying. Do not delay your rest. Do not delay your healing. Do not delay your creativity. Do not delay your forgiveness. Do not delay your becoming. The soul is calling you now. And if you listen closely, you will hear it not as a demand, but as a devotion. A sacred devotion to who you truly are. A vow to return no matter how far you have drifted. Every day you delay, the soul grows quieter. But every day you listen, it grows brighter. This is the truth. And in this truth, you are free.